Oh, 2 o'clock. I'm 3 o'clock Central, 2 o'clock Mountain Time. All right, it's 2 o'clock. This is still week 1, day 1 of programming basics. We're doing the afternoon lecture now. We're going to introduce variables, data types, and the Algo app. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so here we are. Week 1, day 1. This is our lecture material of the day. We're going to be going over this material on the platform. So anytime you forget it, you know where you first learned it. I also have some slides for you guys. But before we do that, I want to go over a couple other basics about the dojo, how the dojo works that I didn't have the time to do this morning. So let me cover some material that I think would be beneficial to help you guys with assignments, because I've noticed some people asked in the breakout room. So let me do that now. And then I'll go on to the topic that we see here: variables, data types, and then the Algo app introduction. All right, so just a couple things, and we'll start the lecture. First thing is that when you see a pencil mark without an O or a P, that means it's a core assignment, okay? The pencil mark with just the blue one without the O or P means it's a core assignment, so you have to do it. The ones there that do have an O or P, right? You don't have to do those. This is an example. This one here has a P on it. That's a practice assignment. That'll still help you, and you should do it if you're keeping up with your tasks. So that's the first thing. That's a core assignment. The second thing is all the information that you'll need to be able to do the core assignment will be in the reading leading up to the core assignment, right? So if you're wondering, oh, am I going too fast or too slow on reading, make sure you have these core assignments done by the end of the day. And here it says at the bottom of the calendar, by the end of the day, you should be done with Algo app level 1. All right, so that's the goal. All right, in order to do that, you have to find the core assignment, submit it at the bottom. You have to find that area that says there, like upload or put in the URL. For now, we're just uploading. And so let me show how to upload a file, how to create a zip, how to create a folder, how to create a file, and how we should be creating our folder file structure. After I do that, then I'll get into the lecture, okay? So let me go here to the helpful link section. And what I am looking for is not here. So let me go to another one here. I'm going to just pull it up. You guys are not seeing what I'm doing, but it is going to be on your next calendar for next week. So let me just pull up something here. I'm sorry for the delay. Folder structure, got it. Okay, here it is. This is what I want to show you guys, that the folder structure should look like this. All right, so you have a desktop, and then you want to create a folder in there. And in that folder, you want to create this hierarchy of folders. All right. So our computer is like a filing cabinet. It has files, it has folders. We're going to be creating files in folders and organizing ourselves in our computer that way. So let's break this down into something practical that we can see. All right. We're going to have our desktop view. I'm going to share a different screen now. This is my other screen. Okay. And on this screen here, you see I have a couple folders, and I have a GIF, whatever you want to call it. Don't care how you call it. So I want to right click somewhere, and this is the same on a PC as well, right? So if I'm doing something on a Mac that you're not sure how to do on a PC, feel free to type it in the chat. Our TA will be able to help you there, or just ask in the middle of the lecture. So feel free to interrupt me at any point in the lecture if you have a pressing question that you feel like you got to get this, I got to ask. Okay, so don't feel shy. So right click on your desktop and you click new folder here. All right. You see it just created an untitled folder at the bottom right. This is where I get to name the folder. So if I click in this area and I double click, I'll be able to highlight the whole thing and then start just pressing the delete or backspace on your keyboard. Then you get to rename it. All right. So on this folder structure that I said here, we wanted to, in the desktop, create something called Dojo assignments. So I'm going to create that right here. I'm going to create it called Dojo assignments. I'm going to rename it Dojo assignments. Okay. After I've typed it and pressed enter, it'll then the folder is there. I've created it. Now I want to create the folders inside those folders that should exist. I'll provide a link for you guys, and you guys should be able to see this. I'll edit the calendar and add this to it so you guys can see this folder structure. But what you guys want to do is create one for programming basics, and in the programming basics folder, create a folder that has the list of your different assignments. For each assignment, create a new folder, and within the folder, create the file related to that folder. All right, so let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to go ahead and create the programming basics folder in there. So I'm in my Dojo assignments. I'm going to say new folder, right click, new folder. I'm going to say programming _ basics. Whenever we create a folder, we don't want to have any spaces in there. All right, no spaces. If you want to separate between words, underscore, or dash. All right, so there we go, programming basics. And so now I want to enter this folder, and in here, I want to create all, this is where I would create my assignment. So this would be assignment 1 and assignment 2 and so forth, right? So in here is where my assignments would live. The first assignment, let's say the first assignment is, let's see, on the calendar, it says today, the end of the day goal. Who can tell me before I look it up? It is, shoot.
The Algo app.
Algo app level 1. All right,
Yeah.
perfect. Thank you. All right, I'm deleting this one. Delete. Move to trash. Right click, move to trash. And I'm gonna right click, rename Algo app 1, right? So this is my first assignment. In here, it says to create a screenshot for your completion of the Algo app level 1. So let me go ahead and show you what that would look like. So for this one here, I'm going to pull up the Algo app. Here I have it. Let's just pretend this was completed. It had 5 out of 5 here. Let's assume I did that. I want to screenshot this thing. And then you see it gives me the option to save it to my desktop. And so I'm going to pull it here into my desktop. I'm going to pull this into my folder now. I just dragged it from my desktop to that folder that I was working on. And then I go back a space. These arrows allow me to go up and down the folder hierarchy, right? So now I'm in this place. Algo app 1. If I right click it and I say compress, it would now make a zip folder. This is a way you can package something so that you can send it across the internet. So now we will take this and then drag it into that area that says upload your assignments, or you can, browse your folder and then find this specific zip. Otherwise, what you can do then is just drag it in, right? So give me a 10 out of 10. Well, just give me in a number 1 out of 10 how well you understood what I just introduced there about creating folders, creating files for a certain structure for your assignments, and then how to zip a file with your assignment in it. So please type in the chat a number out of 10, how well you understood that, just so I know we're all on the same page, and then we'll go ahead and move along.
I just got one question. So every screenshot should have its own folder.
Every screenshot is, yeah. Then you just zip up that folder and then submit that zip. That would be how you submit your assignments for now. The first week, this is how we're going to do it, okay? Next week, we'll be using that link area that you see next to it. So we'll upgrade ourselves to be able to do that next week. But for now, we'll be just creating zips. All right, so that is what I wanted to cover there, okay? About how to create folders for submitting assignments, all the reading material, and is like the articles, the tabs that they give you in the platform leading up to the core assignment is what's core to understanding how to do the challenge, right? So if this one here says code challenge predict arrays, this reading right before seems like that would be essential to understanding how to do this challenge. So each challenge has the reading before that's going to show you what you need to do. It's not going to do it for you, but it's going to give you the information in a way that you can translate it to complete the assignment. Okay, I'll stop sharing the screen. Let me go back to my other screen now. While I do that, does anyone have any questions so far on anything about this, about creating folders, assignments, how the platform works? Okay. I'll take the silence as a no. 10 out of 10. All right, so here we are. We're looking at the wrong calendar here. What I want to get to is this. Here we are. Now let's start what we said we're going to introduce in the lecture. We're going to talk about variables. We're going to talk about data types. And then we're going to introduce the Algo app, how to start understanding and reading code like a computer would. And so that's what our goal is by the end of this lecture. We should be able to read some code and log we should be able to log somewhere what the computer is reading, how that is being read. Okay, so we want to go over some fundamental concepts of programming. And in order to do this, I'm going to use some analogies to break down these terms that may seem, heavy, complex, but it's really just a label for what we're doing. Okay, it's just jargon. Don't worry about the concept level of what a variable is, right? Because who can tell me what is a variable? Does anyone know? Can someone say in a sentence? Okay, great. Well, then that's going to be our segue. We're going to talk about variables now and how we can write them, how we can build them, how we can understand them. All right, so variables are going to be something we're going to introduce. But what is a variable? Okay, so let's look into a slide, and then after I do this slide, we'll go back to the Learn platform where we have our assignments. Okay, so let me go there. All right, here I've made a slide for you. Made a slide for us, made it just today, so here we are. What are variables? All right, what are variables? Variables are like containers. Variables are like containers. See, this box here has this cute little dog in it. This box is a variable. Okay, this box is a variable. And for example, if this box here had this label that said dog, now we know that in this variable, which is a box, has a name, right? This is the label for the variable, but what's actually inside is this cute dog, right? I don't know what kind of dog breed is this. Does anyone know? It's like
it's a dachshund.
Dachshund. I knew it started with the D. Awesome. Okay, so a variable is like a box and it holds information inside of it. Okay, they're like boxes. They can have all different types of information, right? Boxes can have plates, pillows, plants, whatever you put in them. These boxes, these containers of information hold different types of things. And just like in programming, we're gonna create these boxes that have different types of data, right? It's not going to be different types of objects or things. It's going to have different types of data, because as programmers, that's what we're working with. We're working with data. Okay. And boxes need names. Boxes need labels. Variables need labels too, right? In order to know what's inside the box, we have to give it a name. Maybe there's so much in there, when you start to unpack it, you don't know exactly what's going to be in there at the bottom. So we're going to give our variables a name, and that's how we're going to be able to call them. When you want the computer box, you just go to the one that's labeled computer, and then you can open it up, pull it inside, and then you have a computer in there. Or if you go to the glass box, for example, then you know that if you want something made out of glass, you'll go to the one labeled the glass box. So we're going to create some variables, and I want us to think of them as boxes that hold information, right? Because these boxes can hold information, and we can still change the contents inside. So for example, I have this glass box. If I were to open up this glass box, take out all the glass inside, and I also take out all the china from the china box, and I put the china in the glass box, that glass box, that box that says glass on it, now has the china in it. So it can reappropriate some of its contents that it has inside, all right? So you can have a change in what this variable or this box contains, and the label will still be the same. The label on the box name will still be the same, but you can change what's inside. You can swap boxes, all right? So we're going to be playing with variables. We're going to be using variables, and we're going to be using them in a language that's called JavaScript. All right. I'm not going to explain too much about what or why we're using JavaScript is. I'm not going to say too much about what JavaScript is or why we use it. That's going to be something I'll say for next week when we get into how to use it. All right. But for now, we're just going to use it. We're just going to show you how to use it. And then this will be this week. What we're covering this week, we used to cover in one day in Web Fundamentals, and we realized that it was too much information. It was a little bit too fast. So we want to break this down, make sure that we understand the fundamentals of JavaScript, and we'll understand how it relates to Web Fundamentals next week, how it relates to creating a website and creating programs. But for now, we're just going to start with the basics. What's a variable, and how it is like a box, how it behaves like a box. Okay, so now I'm going to be going to the Learn platform, and I'm going to this section here that says variables and data types. Variables and data types. Okay, so these are, this here is a variable. I'm going to write a variable from scratch now. Let's switch to my screen. I have a screen here where I'll write some things out using a pen. And when I do this here, I can't see what's behind. And sometimes I'm learning here how to erase and undo this pen work, but let me try my best here. So I will write a variable. And in order to write a variable, let's just name this here variables. Okay, that's what we're going over. In order to create a variable, we need to initiate it. We need to tell the computer that we are creating a variable. So we need to write a keyword in order to signify that we're going to create a variable. So in order to do that, we have to say var. Okay, so right now, I am telling the computer I'm going to create a variable. I'll write these three letters, VAR for short. All right, the JavaScript, the language interpreter that we're writing our code on, is going to understand that when we write these 3 letters like this, we're creating a variable. Okay. Next, we're going to write the name of the variable, right? This is the label on the box. This is the label on the box. So let's create a name, and I'll say var. Let's think about that box with the dog in it, right? So the label on the box with the dog said dog on it, right? So we're going to write here var dog, because that's the label of our box. And I'm going to put something in this box now. We've created it. Now I need to put something in it. I've created this box. It has a label on it now. And now I'm going to put something in it. So the way I will do that is by writing an equal sign. Okay. When I write an equal sign, I'm telling the JavaScript interpreter that I'm going to put something inside the box. So whatever's on the right-hand side of this equal sign is going to be what I put inside. Now, for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do this. I'm going to put in quotes, cute dog, right? Because that's what we saw. Why is it in quotes? Well, this is a certain type of data, right? Whatever this is that I wrote, this is a certain type of data that's going to go inside this box that we have a labeled dog for. Okay, so let's take a pause right now and write in the chat 1 through 10 how well we're understanding how to write a variable, how to give it a label, and how to put something in it. Okay, I want us to understand that this is how we create here. Let me see if I can do a different color. This is the box. This is the label. And this is the content inside the box. Whatever stuff we put in the box, we signify that we are going to put it in with 1 equal sign. That's important. 1 equal sign. Not 2, not 3, just 1. 1 equal sign puts something in the box. Okay, just 1. All right. So I think we're doing well. We understand this one. Okay, I'm excited. We're understanding this pretty good so far. All right. So we've created a variable. Now what? Now we want to do something with that variable, right? We don't want it to just exist in plain space. And now we got to do something with it. So what we're going to do with it is we're going to print it. Okay, we're going to print it somewhere. Just like you can write a text message, but unless you press the send button, it's not going to go anywhere, right? So we're gonna make this variable go somewhere. Where we're going to make it go is to a place called the console. All right, the console is like a special screen area. Let me see if I can pull up. I found this cool GIF. I wanted to make a slide out of this, but then that was going to be too much work just to do that. So look at this little GIF I have here. This little screen has this rotating globe thing on it, but it's a tiny little screen. All right, and what I'm going to say now is that this here is our console, right? This is our special screen area. Only we can see it. Only we developers can see it. And I'll explain a little bit more about how that makes sense. Why is it that only us developers can see it? That's because, okay, we just have a special screen, right? I'll let you guys know we have a special screen called the console. We can take variables and we can print it in this screen area. So if I have a var x equals, and I'm going to say 5, I have var x equals 5. Okay, this variable just exists in plain space. If I wanted to make this value here, this 5, if I wanted to make that value appear in the screen, what I would need to do is write console dot log, and then I say the name of the variable. The name of the variable is what I would have to put inside this parentheses. Okay. This variable is what I need to put inside this parentheses in order to make this 5 print here. Okay, so I'm gonna say that we printed it. After the code reader reads this line, okay, it exists in memory. The computer understands, okay, I understand this is existing somewhere. And then it reads this line. And then it understands, oh, okay, you want me to print this somewhere. Okay, I'll take whatever you put inside this area, this parentheses after console log. So you have to write this. Console.log means print to the console area, and then inside the parentheses is what we want it to print to the screen. Okay, so we're taking the name of the variable x, and its value is then going to be printed here in the screen. Okay, so let's type in the chat another 1 through 10, how well we're understanding what a console is. It's our special screen area where we can print stuff to. Okay, this is our special little screen. We can print stuff to this screen. We can see things that we want to see, variables that we create, see their values printed in a screen area. Okay, so this is the console, and what we're going to be doing is creating variables and logging them to the console. Okay, so we're just going to be creating variables and logging them to the console. So how do we do that? How do we actually do that instead of just drawing on the screen? So let's take a look. Here we have two variables. We have the first variable, var. Let me see if I can zoom in or something. All right, we have var num equals 5. All right, so the computer understands, all right, you have one num called 5, and then it reads the next line, var my other num equals 10. Okay, so one variable is called my num. You have one box, then inside that box is the value 5, and then you have another num with the value 10. So now if you console log them in the same parentheses, one plus the other, we can also combine what's inside these variables and add them up. So we can do addition. So what can we actually put inside a variable? So now we're going to be going over the topic of data types. All right. We now covered what a variable is. A variable is like a box. We can print that content that is inside that box to a special screen area. And now we're going to go over what types of things can we put in our variable box? What kind of stuff can we put inside, right? What kind of things can we put, what type of data can we put into variables? That's what we're going to understand now. Different types of data. So let's look at the platform here, and it says here data types. There are many different types of data in computer science. The most common ones in JavaScript, that's the language you're learning right now, are number, string, unidentified, null, and Boolean. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different types of data. We're going to be going over 5 different data types right now. This is the type of data that we can put inside of our variable, okay? So the first one is going to be number. All right, so data types. And then we're going to be going over the number. So it's very simple. We create a variable here, var. Var, we'll name it X, just one simple letter, var X. And then we're going to give it a value. All right. So let's say we want to give it a number value. So the first data type that we're introducing now is a number. And a number is, well, a number is a number. Okay. So var X equals 5. That's a number data type. All right. We can have this one here, var, let's say Y equals 4. So var X plus Y, we can do that because this here, they're both numbers. We can add numbers together. If they're the same data type, we can add them together and do some math with these variables. All right, so this is our first data type. It's a number. And with these numbers, we can do math. We can print to the screen. We can say console.log X plus Y. And then what should we get as the result? Can someone tell me?
9.
It should be 9.
No, no brainer, right? It's because we're just calling the names of the variables and then we get their values from calling their names. And then we say, if we add up these two variables, then the value is going to be what we have inside here, their contents. Okay, so that's what we get. With this data type, we can do math. So you can imagine we can do subtraction, division, all types of different math we can do. And we'll be going over the order of operations tomorrow. So we won't cover how to do math with these variables. Now we'll save that for tomorrow morning. But now we know that in the types of data that we can make numbers, and we can play with these variables in a way that we can do math with variables that have number data types. Okay, so that's number 1. We said we had 5, right? So let's go over number 2. String. Did anyone do the reading? Can someone tell me what a string is?
A string is a selection, a data type of selection of characters, like letters.
Okay.
Stuff.
Basically a sentence.
We said strings. Yes, all those answers are correct. Let me make it a simpler answer. A string is anything within quotations. Okay, so we can say var X equals hello. As long as it's within these quotations here, this is what signifies that it's a string. So anything inside here, anything within these quotations, that's what defines a string. Okay, it's a series of characters within these quotations. So if we console log this, then if we say console.log X, then we'll have to our special screen area. Okay, I'll draw the screen area for us. All right, I'm just going to draw a little box. This is our console. If we say console.log X, in this area, we'll get what we put inside the string. We'll get hello. Okay. So let's take a pause now and type in the chat how well we understand that there are different types of data. And so far we've covered 2, numbers and strings. Numbers are numbers that we know as numbers 1 through infinity or negative infinity or however many numbers exist. And there's strings that exist in inside the quotations. they can be any list of characters within the quotations. We're going to go over more about what strings are, but I just want to take a pause. Make sure we're getting it. If anyone has any questions, feel free to interrupt. All right, we're going to be continuing on with what strings are and how they work. So a string can look like this as well. Var x equals 5. Now we put the 5 in quotations. This 5 is no longer a number. Okay, that's not a number anymore. It's now a string because it's within the quotations. So if we say, for example, var x equals 5 and var y equals 5, what would happen if I said console log x plus y? Who can tell me?
You'd get an error. You get a syntax error.
Not exactly. Not exactly. Good guess, though.
You'll just get 5 plus the 5 again. So the number 5.
Well, how about it?
Maybe 55.
Let's find out. Let's find out. And I'll show you guys how you guys can now create variables and give them values to see what will happen. So yeah, there's a simple answer. I'm just not going to give it yet. So I'm going to show you how you can find it for yourself. Okay.
5 in a string and 5 as a number.
Well, we'll see. We'll see in just a moment. I want to introduce now. I'm gonna come back to different data types. All right, I'll come right back to this. But what I'm gonna now introduce is trace. So I'm gonna use this topic here, which is it's not in the lecture, but trace is one of the tools that we can use to create variables and see what their contents are if we combine them or how we use them. All right. So if we go to the helpful links tool in our calendar and we go to this link here, trace. Here we are. Maybe mine looks a little bit different than yours. If you go there to this link, what you'll see is a bunch of code. But at the bare minimum, what I want you guys to do is find the opening and closing brackets that say open function main. Okay, we don't have to explain what this is. We don't know what this is. Don't worry about it. We have export function main and then the opening bracket and the closing bracket. Delete everything inside. Inside this area is where we're going to write our code. Okay, so it doesn't matter how much we expand this. We don't even have to see the beginning and end. I don't want you guys to see it because this is not normally something you guys would write in your assignment. So don't take this part of the code and write it in your assignment. But in order to use this tool, trace, we have to write whatever code we want to run inside this area. Okay, so it's a bit of a learning curve because it's like training wheels that you don't understand what they do, but they're there. So for now, just ignore this and just be sure not to delete it, but write your code in here. All right. So that being said, I'm just going to expand it so that we don't see it. We don't have to think about it. Here we have our space where we're going to write code. Okay. So here we are. I'm going to write what we just wrote on the other screen. Var x equals 5. Now we have a variable x and we've given it that value, that number value 5. I'm going to write another variable now, var y equals, and in this quotation area, I'm going to put another number. But now this is a string, right? So we wanted to find out what would happen if we said console.log x plus y. So whenever we write a console log, we have to put everything that we want to be printed to that special screen area within the parentheses. The thing that we want printed has to be within the parentheses. Okay, so I have my first variable, I have my second one. We said we wanted to see what happened if we combined a string with a number. Let's check it out. So I'm going to click this button, run. It's going to take a minute to load. And we're only going to be using this tool for the first week. Okay, after this, we'll let go of this thing. But for now, it's going to be a helpful tool to understand how the computer reads your code. All right, so I'm gonna it makes like a play-by-play step of the computer reading through the code, because when you would normally play something like this, it would be so fast you don't see what actually happens. So here we have a step-by-step playbook of how the computer reads the code, right? So here we have highlighted in this blue area. Let me see if I can pull these annotation tools. In this area here, this is where we are currently at, right? And if I click through the next step, let me get to my mouse. It goes to the next line. When it goes to the next line, you may notice here on the right-hand side, now this value is saved here. This is what we're going to call our T diagram, okay? So we're still on the topic of variables and data types. We're now just seeing how these two different data types are going to interact with each other on the console. And what I'm now going to introduce is what is the concept of T diagramming, okay? We're not going off topic here. We're staying on topic. We're just going to introduce this here now. A T diagram is a diagram that shows how the computer is saving the values of those variables. So on the left here, we have the, put it in blue. How about that? Yeah. So we have the name of the variable. And on the right-hand side, we have the value. Value and variable, okay? This is the name of the variable. The first one we understood was X. It passed through this line. It's now onto this line, right? It's now onto that line. So it's already understood this one and saved this one to memory. So that's why we see here var X equals 5. Variable here on the left, value on the right. Now it's going to read this line, line 8. It's going to see var Y equals 5 as a string. Let's see what happens. It's going to go from unidentified here. It's going to go from unidentified to something else. So let's see how it changes. Okay, so let me exit the pen. Pass through this. Okay, now we have the value saved. Y is a string. Are you guys with me so far? Y is now a string. It's saved in the T diagram that the computer has in its own internal storage here. All right, so we have the variable, the value. We have the value saved. This is our compute. This is a representation of our computer memory, right? This is our computer brain. Now we are on the line here that says console log X and Y. So as soon as this line executes, X plus Y, we should see to our special screen area the result of what our original question was. What was going to happen if we add X plus Y? Now, when we say console log, that means it has to print to our special screen area. That area is down here below. So we should see somewhere around here the value that we're looking for. All right, let me clear out all these drawings. I don't need them in my way. All right, so now we're going to see what happens. I'm going to pass through, and the answer is 55. Okay, who thought it was 55? And the reason is because Y is a string and X is a number, right? X is a number, Y is a string. So a string is not treated as a number. A string is treated as like a word, right? So if you add X plus Y, what we're going to get is 55. All right, let's type in the chat a 1 through 10, how well we're understanding so far. I'll have a better polling system by tomorrow. So sorry that you have to type it in the chat. Tomorrow it'll be.
So is it actually 55 or just two fives next to each other?
Sorry, your mic wasn't very loud.
So is it like 55 or is it just two fives right next to each other to make it look like 55?
Well, you're console logging them in the same console log, so it's 55. It's fit together. Yeah, it adds them together. It smushes them together, and this is actually 55 from adding a string to a number. So the question is this now a string or a number, right? So this would be this is a value. This is neither a, well, you know what? This is how we're going to find out. What we're going to do is say var z equals x plus y. Okay, now instead of x plus y in here, I'm going to console log z. And z is 55, right? It's the same value. But now we can use a JavaScript function. There's a lot of inbuilt JavaScript functions that the language has in it, right? We're creating things here. We're creating variables. We're creating values. But the language itself has lots of inbuilt commands that we can use to our advantage. This one is one here, console.log. We'll be providing lots of documentation that you can go over about JavaScript. Like there is a whole library of different JavaScript inbuilt functions that you can go over. We don't want to overwhelm you with them by just showing you everything now, but you can go over what they are here. And if you want to explore what type of data it is, I challenge you to go through the MDN docs, find what type of value z is, and then get back to me, right? So, but that's not essential to what we're doing now. We know that, where's trace? Here it is, playground. When we add x plus y, we are going to get the value 55 because y is a string. And when you add a string to a number, what we're going to get as a result is a combination of a number and a string together. So let's see our code again. What if we change this string instead of from 5 to the word hello? And now z, if we say var x plus y, if we run this, let's see what we get. Okay. Now that we're getting into programming, I want us to think of ourselves as computer scientists. That means whenever we have a question, we can run an experiment and just test it ourselves. All right. So we're going to be using trace in order to do that. We're going to be using console log in order to print values that we are going to be adding or combining or finding their values here. So now we have z to be x plus y. If we console log z, we get 5 hello. That's how that works. Okay, so we have our two main types of data that we've introduced so far. We have numbers and strings. Let's go over a few more, and that'll pretty much wrap up this lecture. Okay, we have a couple more different data types. Oops. All right, here we are. The second one we said was going to be, the first two were number and string. Now, the next one I want to go over is a Boolean. Okay.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
With the with what you just did, would that still be considered as like concatenation, or is
Yes.
that okay?
Yes. 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 So, as a bonus, if you want to find out for yourself what type of value z is, if we're concatenating X and Y, what do you think Z's value is? What type of data type is Z?
Is it still a string?
Yep, maybe. It's a good guess. I don't want to tell you out flat out, right? But we know that if it concatenates, it's treating addition not as just simple numbers adding together. Okay, so the answer is yes, but I wanted you guys to look it up through the documentation. I'll show you guys officially how to use some of the JavaScript inbuilt docs, but I went a little ahead of myself in introducing this now, so I don't want to give that challenge. All right, so it is a string. So let's continue with our different types of data. Booleans now. All right, so we have numbers, we have strings, and now we have Booleans. What's a Boolean?
Boolean can
It's
only
true.
have a value of true or false.
Yep, that's it. A Boolean is a true or false. That's the type of data a Boolean is. It's either the value is going to be true or false, right? When you walk into your room and you flip that switch is either on or off. That's a Boolean. Okay, a Boolean either has a true or false data. And we're going to use these Booleans later on to create what's called functions. All right, functions are parts of programming that do something. And so like when we walk into our room, based on if the switch is on or off, we want to do something with that value. If it's off, then we turn it on. If it's on, then we turn it off, right? So depending on what it is, the value at the current moment, that is what we're going to use a Boolean for. So Boolean holds that type of data that's either true or false. Okay, true or false. And lastly, we have undefined and null. So let's look at what the platform says about undefined and null. If we have a variable that we did not put anything inside of it, that we didn't put anything inside of, then that is going to be an undefined. Okay, so let's go ahead and test that. I'm going to, all I'm going to do now is just delete everything. I have to go back to code to edit. All right, so keep that in mind whenever you're doing that. Can't edit in the replay. So go back here. I'm going to just delete the equal sign and the x plus y. All right, so x still exists, y still exists, but we're not doing anything with it. They just exist in memory. Now we have z. We want to console log z, var z. Let's run it. Okay, it takes a minute. You pause and think about your life for a second. And there we go. All right. 5, hello, and print. And we got an undefined. And that's because we didn't assign anything to the value of z here, right? We said that if a box has nothing inside of it, then it is undefined. So this variable is undefined. These are still saved in the T diagram, as you can see. This thing, this area here, okay? This area is where the data is stored in memory for the computer. This represents the data stored in memory. This is our T diagram, our var and val T diagram. Okay, x is still 5 in memory because it's still defined here. This is still there, var y equals hello. And then we said console log var z in our T diagram is undefined. And when we said console log z, then we brought that value here to our console. Console is our special screen area. Remember, it's called our terminal here. This is another word that we would see to identify our console. Okay, and that undefined value that we see here ascribed to z, we print that in our console. This is the command for that. And so that's why we see it there. Okay, now let's take another pause. How well are we understanding undefined, and how when we have a variable that has no value assigned to it, how it should be defined as, well, undefined. Okay, now that we have undefined, we're going to look at null. Null and undefined are sometimes incorrectly interchanged. So undefined is the value that is given to a variable that has not been explicitly been assigned a value, right? Null is an explicitly assigned value, and it is often when used wanting to explicitly state that nothing is currently being held in this variable. Okay, so what does that mean? That means, for example, that if we say var z equals null, then we will see here if we print it and wait long enough, we'll see the console null, right? And we purposefully gave it a non-value. We said null. That means it doesn't have a value. It's not a string. It's not a number. It's not a Boolean. It's not undefined. It's just this specific undefined, well, technically not undefined, but it's a null value, the value that we want to say this doesn't have a value. Let me give you a funny analogy, right? Maybe it'll help. I'm pretty sure it will help. I used to live in a share house. How long ago was that? Oh, that was like 10 years ago. Now I'm feeling old. I lived in a share house. Sometimes there was an occasional party. People from the neighborhood would join. Just random people. I met this guy once, and he wore a trench coat and golf cap. And I asked him what his name was, and he told me his name was No Name. And so I was trying to ask, does that mean you don't have a name, or your name is No Name? And so when he kept telling me No Name is what you can call me, because he didn't want to give a name, that would be like a null value. He's giving me a placeholder. It's like a non-value placeholder, okay? Doesn't mean he doesn't have a name. That would be like undefined, but he's just giving me something that I can say that has a non-value. And so that would be like a null, okay? You don't have to really use undefined and null yet, but when you come across it now, you'll know what you'll see, what it is. All right, so those are our 5 different types of data types. And we've covered what a variable is, how a variable can hold different types of data. And so the last thing that we're going to cover this lecture hour, and then we're going to close it out with this, is the Algo app. All right, the Algo app is your first assignment, right? Because it says here Algo app level 1. You're going to have to take a screenshot, put that screenshot in that folder, zip up that folder, and put it in this area. You're going to drag and drop that zip in here. In order to get to that level, you're going to have to go to the part in the calendar that goes to the Algo app. We go to helpful links, Algo app. Here we are. And we have our activities. This here, I'll do the first one with you. This here is just like what we did a minute ago on trace. In fact, you can take the code and write it on trace to see exactly how it is playing out step by step. If you want to do that, I encourage you to do that if that's going to help you understand. Okay, don't use it just to find the answer right away. Try to do it by yourself, because that's going to be the discipline that helps you understand how to code. But use trace as a tool that will help you when you don't understand why a change is taking place, or or why something is not logging as you would have expected. Okay, so this one's very simple, right? So we have var x equals 5. So we're going to pretend that we're trace now. We're the computer that would read and run the code. Okay, so we're the computer now. We're pretending we're a computer. We're reading line 1. We read var x equals 5. So we go to our memory area. We're going to say variable x. This is our T diagram, by the way. In case you can't see it, let me just draw it out. So this is our T diagram. Next week, we're going to be writing code and T diagramming our own code. So I want us to get used to seeing it now. We have our T diagram and let's see here. Okay. Variable x, we read here, x equals 5. So the value of x, we write on the right-hand side, 5. X is 5, and now we read the next line. We go to the next line. The next line says console log x. Okay, so the value of x that we read in our table, we look to our table, not to our code. We look to our table, x equals 5. All right, so this is our console here. So pretend this is our special screen area now where we will submit our answers. So we'll put here 5, submit, and we got it right. So we get to see our video explanation and how we got it right in case we don't know if we're feeling doubtful. We can also take this code and put it into trace if we're feeling doubtful or frustrated, right? So we can write in here var x equals 5. And now we can say console log 5. And we know what's going to happen, right? If I click run, it's going to print. It's going to print to that bottom area. Okay. And here we are, 5. I know this thing is a little slow and clunky, and it takes some getting used to. I promise you after this week, we won't ever touch this thing again. But for now, it's a helpful tool to help us understand. So here's our T diagram. X is 5. I wrote it a little off, sorry. And so now we have the printed 5. That's our answer that we see on the Algo app here. Where is it? Here. So that's why we got this one right. And so we go to the next one, we complete all 5, take a screenshot, submit our assignment. So that's our goal for the end of today. All right, so end of day assignment is Algo app level 1. We all understand what a variable is, what types of data can go inside a variable, and how we can write them ourselves now from scratch. We can create variables with different types of data and make them interact with each other, see them printed on our special screen area of the console. Okay, so that's going to wrap up today's lecture. For the rest of the day, I'll be here until 5 Mountain Time. I'll be checking in on you guys, see if you guys are doing all right on your assignments. So your assignments for now, the core assignment is Algo app level 1, but you have these practice and optional assignments here. Code challenge, create variables. And actually, that one's a core one too, isn't it? Yes, it is. So this is not an optional one. Code challenge, create variables. So here, let me just introduce what this one is, and we'll close it out after this. The assignment says the story. A local theme park has a ride where the rider must be at least 42 inches tall to ride and is over the age of 10. They've hired a development agency. They've hired the development agency you work at to build an app that measures the rider's height and age and displays whether the rider is tall enough and old enough to ride the roller coaster. You've been tasked with building the variables for this app. Okay, so when we read a problem like this, we have the keywords to help us figure out what we need. So we have local theme park where rider must be at least 42 inches tall. At least 42 inches tall. That seems like that's a height, right? That's a height requirement. An age of 10. That's an age requirement, right? So you can create some variables that relate to that. And then, well, you have the assignment. I don't want to say too much now, but you guys have the challenge. I'll be checking in on you guys to make sure you guys are doing all right with this challenge. We have Kobe as well. He'll check in on you. So that is our goal for today. We're going to create variables. We're going to write the Algo app level 1, and we have our VS Code assignment. Okay. So, we had a great first day, didn't we? I will be in my room. I'll just be hanging out there in case anyone has any questions. If no one's dropping in, I'll just drop in on your room. So see how you're doing. Make sure you're doing all right. Okay. All right. So let me stop the recording. I'll have these up on the calendar as well. Sometime after, an hour or two from now. So that's when they'll be up. And that's about it. You have some homework as well. After you finish today's assignments, you have to read up and through the tools T diagram. So I already introduced what that was, right? So you have a little bit of understanding for your homework. And tomorrow in the morning, we're going to go over what order of operations are and the intro to arrays. So that is operations, how are we going to do math in JavaScript, the order of how we do the different math operations, what comes in priority list, math, addition, subtraction. That's something we've already probably covered sometime in our schooling when we did algebra or something, if we had to ever do it. So it's really simple stuff tomorrow morning. And then we're going to be going over a new type of data as well. So we have our 5 types. Who can name them off memory? Just off the top of their head.
String, number, boolean, no, unassigned.
Undefined. There you go.
Undefined,
Awesome.
sorry.
Nope, that's good. All right, Alonzo, nice. Looking good. All right, so we'll go ahead and close this lecture. Did I already stop the recording? Nope. All right, we'll stop the recording now.